Tissues. So remember, tissues are a group of cells that are basically the same type of cell working together in concert to do something. Vascular plants all have a type of tissue that provides support and can move water and nutrients. They are basically straws that are in the plant. Here's celery. Celery will mess you up. I know you don't. Okay, hear me out on celery. Sidebar. I get to talk about celery. Celery it's a staple right now, but celery can be dangerous to harvest because celery has these photoreactive chemicals in it that basically, if they get on your skin and you're in the sun, it will cause your skin to blister. It's what prevents. It's their defense mechanism for keeping herbivores off. Basically, if an herbivore eats it, they get these chemicals on their face. The sun hits their chemicals, they burn, and the herbivore leaves. Now, what's it called? Photodermatitis, I think. But what ends up happening with modern celery is, or most celery you get in the store, is we've selected against that property. So we are trying to make it so the celeries that you buy aren't dangerous to snap open. The issue is, by having celery, by reducing that amount of metabolite in the celery, you make it more susceptible to herbivores in the field, so you have a lot of heavy crop losses. So how do you compensate for that? You use insecticides, herbicides, and different types of chemicals. Does that make sense? So we got a trade-off. People said, we don't want these chemicals on our foods. So they went back to these like organic celeries. And those organic celeries still have those photoreactive secondary metabolites in them, and it makes it very dangerous to pick them. So it's one reason why you have to wash your food before you eat it, because most of them have chemicals on it to protect them so they don't have these dangerous reactions. So celery will mess you up if it's the wrong celery. The more you know. Right, tubes. So plants, most vascular plants have tubes running through them. Typically, when you're looking at a large tree outside, what you're seeing is the sporophyte structure. That's very big, unlike moss, because it has these tubes that both provide strength and rigidity and allow it to take water up. In the trees, I kid you not, I have to teach you this, there are branches. Yes, that's true. Branches extend from the trunk of the tree. They're extending out from those lateral meristems. What would branches do for the tree? Yeah, when in doubt, right? But welcome to Bio 102. It's either going to kill you or it gives you more surface area. More surface area means you can gather more more energy from the sun. Particular types of vascular plants are called tracheids. They're tracheophytes. They have a cell that moves water and nutrients. So you're going to have xylem and you're going to have phloem. You've probably heard these two terms before. Xylem, phloem, right? Yes? No? Good. Xylem transports water, but it's primarily for structure. Phloem transports food and nutrients. There are three types of tissues in plants, in vascular plants: stems, roots, and leaves. Again, shouldn't be big and surprising, right? Stems, roots, and leaves. Stems are composed of xylem and phloem. They're composed of tissues that make you strong, and they're composed of tissues that move nutrients. The phloem is one type of those tissue. It's made up of tracheids that allow for the movement of water and nutrients to the plant. So here we have the phloem. It moves nutrients in different directions, both up and down. The xylem, on the other hand, is going to be responsible for providing structure and allowing the plant to grow tall. It also will move water from the roots up. It only goes in one direction. I always think of xylem like a straw. Straws move water. Typically, they move it in the direction of the suck, which is up to your mouth. I also think of it as a straw because a straw does have pretty good structure to it. If you were to try to compress a straw from the sides, it squishes pretty easily, right? You guys probably have always bitten, you've bitten down on a straw and it gets crushed. If you push down on a straw from the top, it's got a lot of strength to it. You could take a straw and you could put it right through an orange. Heck, you could take a straw, you could put it right through someone's temple if you had the right angle. True. Because it's got strong structure vertically, it's got weak structure horizontally, just like plants. They're easily crushed, but they are not easily compressed. Roots are specialized organs that take up water and nutrients from the soil. Yes?
What did you say the phloem does again?
So phloem transports nutrients and foods in two directions. Xylem is for structure and transporting water from the roots up to the leaves. So roots take in nutrients, roots take in water. Guys, they have a whole bunch of twists and turns to them. Why? Surface area. Oftentimes, roots and fungus form a mutualistic relationship. They support each other. We talked about a little bit about this before. They have these mycorrhizae that attach onto roots, and they draw in more water to the plant. The plant provides some sugar to the fungus, allowing the fungus to grow. They both benefit. It's a symbiotic relationship. Leaves. Leaves are flat, and they're responsible for photosynthesis. Why are they flat? When in doubt, surface area. The flatter they are, you're able to use all of that space to gather energy. If they were thick, light wouldn't get through, and you'd have wasted cells that aren't doing any photosynthesis. Now, these vascular plants are all highly adapted to prevent water loss. So they've got a waxy cuticle, they've got stoma, and they've got internal conductive tissues. I'm going to show you each of these on the next few slides. First off, the wax. Saw this picture before. You've got an epidermis, a set of outside tissues that produce wax. What do you guys know about wax? How does it react with water? It repels it, pushes it off. It's hydrophobic. So if these cells are all producing wax, it means that water can't get in, but more importantly, water doesn't get out. It's basically created a little cup filled with water. It also prevents pathogen attacks, because in order for like a bug or a bacteria to get into the plant, it has to get through the wax, and that's pretty thick. In fact, we tend to coat some of the, back to the stores, if you go to a store and get a fruit, like an apple or something, typically it's coated in a very thin layer of paraffin or wax to prevent microorganisms from getting into it. That's why you wash it. So we got wax on the outsides. That stops water loss. We also have these cells called stoma. Stoma are a cluster of cells that are going to open and close in order to allow gases into the leaf, because the leaf needs carbon dioxide. Why does the leaf need carbon dioxide? Photosynthesis. So if you've got these cells that are going to open up, that's where the carbon dioxide gets in. The downside is, at the same time that stoma is open, water will leak out. When water leaks out, it's called transpiration. So to stop water from leaking out whenever you need carbon dioxide, you've got these cells that'll open to take in carbon dioxide when it's needed, but close all the rest of the time. It's like a mouth. There are hundreds or thousands of these on the bottom side of a leaf. Why aren't they on the top of a leaf? Why is the top of a leaf just covered with wax usually?
That's where the sun is absorbing all the heating. That's where the water evaporates.
Right. So if there were these holes on the top, the water would evaporate faster. Stoma are going to be really important for the movement of water. Water moves through a plant because of its, what are they called? Because of its cohesive nature. Water forms hydrogen bonds. I know I'm going back to Bio 101 with chemistry, but it forms hydrogen bonds onto each other. Basically, one water molecule will hold on to the next, will hold on to the next, will hold on to the next. So if this is the stoma, and I've got a water molecule up here, it's going to evaporate out of the stoma through transpiration. In the process, it's pulling the water molecule behind it with it. Does that make sense? Then that water molecule pulls the one next to it, pulls the one next to it, pulls the one next to it, until we get to the bottom of the plant. Then what happens? There's no water molecule in the plant anymore. It dies, or it pulls water from the roots. You know, you're in the roots, you're pulling water from the soil now. Eventually, when all the water in the soil is gone, that's when the plant wilts and dies. So the stoma prevents water loss by closing. And then, of course, we have internal conductive tissues. Bryophytes, mosses, they don't have these. So they're going to dry out. They're much more susceptible to drying out. Vascular plants with internal conductive tissues, like xylem here, xylem here, phloem here, they're going to keep all of the water on the inside of the plant. So all of these cells on the outside, they can become desiccated, but water will constantly come up through the center, almost like a fountain coming up through the center of a plant. In fact, these tracheid tissues, xylem and phloem, actually have holes throughout them so that water leaks out as it's coming up the plant into the cells around it. So and trust me, that's a exam question and a half, right? What are some adaptations that plants have to living on the land? They have a waxy cuticle to prevent water loss. They have internal conductive tissues like xylem and phloem. And what was the last one? The stoma, thank you. The stoma will open and close in order to prevent transpiration. Questions or concerns?